All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jazz is Happy Hour. It is everything you love about happy hour. A little booze, a little music, some great conversation. Plus, you don't have to share that little communal bowl of peanuts. So, win-win. Although, if you really think about it, are we ever going to see those little communal bowls of peanuts again? Maybe not. Anyway, I digress. My name is Brian Zimmerman. I am the digital content editor of Jazz's Magazine, and I am very excited for our guests today. That's right, guests plural. We're going to be starting things off with Kat Edmondson, a singer-songwriter of the jazz and vintage pop vein, just an all-around brilliant interpreter of the Great American Songbook and a writer of some original, beautiful original compositions to boot. Like me, she just likes a good melody. She loves a good lyric. And it doesn't hurt that her stuff swings. And if that's your vibe too, you are going to love hearing her perform and hearing what she has to say. She's going to be talking about her career and her new album, Dreamers Do, which is out right now and features reinterpretations of songs from the Disney Songbook, the golden age of Disney films. We're talking that 40s and 50s and 60s magic period in the middle of the 20th century. We are also going to be talking to saxophonist Bobby Watson, who is about to release a new album called Keepin It Real that finds him with a brand new iteration of his Horizons band. This new album comes out June 26th. It takes a cue from Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers, which, of course, Bobby was a part of. He was also on a recent Smoke Sessions Records release called Bird at 100 that celebrated Charlie Parker's centennial year, which happens to be this year, 2020. We're going to be talking to him about all that, and he's going to play a little for us too. And before we get into it, let me remind you, if you have any questions for either artist or for me, or just want to say hello, feel free to drop us a line on Facebook or YouTube or wherever it is you happen to be watching. We will get to your questions on air, we promise. Let me very quickly thank some of today's sponsors because we have a lot to get to. So thank you firstly to Concord Records. Their new album is Ella 100 live at the Apollo. It's out right now. It's a live concert from 2016 celebrating Ella Fitzgerald, the First Lady of Song, and it features some wonderful performances from the likes of Andra Day, Letticy, Liz Wright, so many more. It is available for streaming, for purchase. For more info, go to concord.com. Thanks also to Blue Sound. Blue Sound is an award-winning wireless high-res sound system that lets you play music in any and every room throughout your home. It's one of those systems where you can kind of, bounce the music from room to room, the kitchen to the living room to the bedroom, control where, at what volume, and when the music plays using a free Blue OS app for your smartphone, tablet, or desktop computer, and that's it. Getting the kind of audiophile grade sound system that you've always dreamed of has never been easier. You can learn more at bluesound.com or by visiting our website, jazziz.com, where we have put together a Blue Sound buyer's guide. All right, without further ado, you know to ask the questions, you know to watch. Let's go ahead and bring in our first guest to the happy hour, Kat Edmondson. Kat, are you there?
Hi, Brian. I'm here.
Excellent. So great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us for the happy hour.
Thanks for having me.
I poured this drink just for you. This is an old fashioned, and not to say that you are old fashioned, but the name of one of your great albums was Old Fashioned Gal. And this comes after I tried one of those whipped coffee drinks today for the first time. That's all the rage on the internet.
Oh, what do you mean all the rage on the internet?
Oh, it's all over Instagram. It's this whipped coffee drink that you're supposed to pour, you like dollop over milk. Oh, wow. The recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of instant coffee. My wife accidentally bought instant espresso. So if my head explodes during this interview, you will know why. But I've got the old fashioned to calm me down.
Me too. I never drink caffeine, and I was up really early this morning because I had a call with some people in the UK, and so I got up at 6:30 and I had to stay awake. So I drank some black tea. So I'm kind of charged.
We're all a little buzzed.
Yeah, and I actually don't have any booze in the house, unfortunately. So there's nothing to come down. Please enjoy that old fashioned on me.
Oh, I absolutely will. It's good. Everything will be swinging in up tempo. Kat, the new album is awesome. Dreamers Do. The bulk of it comes from the Disney Songbook, that Disney golden age of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, which these are movies that I love. I'm curious about your Disney fandom. the breadth and depth. I know you're a fan of classic films. Your album, The Big Picture, kind of had a really nice Henry Mancini vibe. When it comes to Disney, are you into all of it? Have you been up on the Pixar stuff, your Moanas, your Frozens, or is it really kind of confined to that golden age?
I mean, I watch the new stuff, absolutely, but I'm a devotee of the older stuff, and maybe because I'm more inclined to listen to older music, and so that's what you get with the music from 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Totally.
But one of my favorite Disney films, actually, a couple of them are what is it called? The Incredibles.
Oh yeah, that's a fame.
And that Bond sounding music is great too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kat, I've got my old fashioned in hand. You've got a microphone in your hand. I would love to start out with some music if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do.
Cool.
This is A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes, which is the first song off of my new record, Dreamers Do. And perhaps you'll know what movie this one's from. This is Roy Dunlap on piano and Matt Munisteri on guitar. A dream is a wish your heart makes when you're fast asleep. In dreams you will lose your heartaches. Whatever you wish for, you keep. Well, have faith in your dreams, and someday your rainbow will come smiling through. No matter how your heart is grieving, if you keep on believing, the dream that you wish will come true.
Clap, clap, clap for the piano solo.
Have faith in your dreams, and someday your rainbow will come smiling through. No matter how your heart is grieving, if you keep on believing, the dream that you wish will come true for you. For you.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Cinderella never swung so hard.
Right,
no, that's right. If anyone was playing the trivia game. One thing I love about your interpretations of these songs in the album is that you really recontextualize them. That one is absolutely kind of swinging in the kind of gypsy jazz vein. In a World of My Own kind of has a dreamy Santo and Johnny kind of vibe with the lap steel guitar. And then you have a version of When I Wish Upon a Star that it was just so, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like Mediterranean, Bill Withers, neo flamenco. You really just get so creative in your approach to these tunes and take some creative license with the melodies as well. That speaks a lot, I think, to your own creativity as an artist, but also to your reverence to the tune's lyrics, because you're really It's the lyrics that become the vehicle that transport you back to the original song. What do you think it is about the lyrics of these Disney tunes that have made them so enduring? I know it's a tough question, but in your hands, the lyrics, there's just such a nice spotlight shined on them.
No, I don't think it's a tough question because it's something I've given great thought to. I had to in order to take on this record. I I had to wonder why I was listening to it myself. You can't talk about dreams without talking about the human condition. And dreaming is not beyond anyone. It's something we all do.
Mhm.
It's something we all experience in life. And um, a lot of these messages in the Disney songs are quite instructional, how-tos on, you know, following one's dreams. If you do A and B, you'll get C. Have faith in your dreams, beyond all doubt, and one
Right.
day your dreams will come true. And these are things that we heard when we were, most of us, really young. And so I think we were kind of indoctrined, if you could go so far to say that. I know that I was, with a belief that, these things were true. And I think, pursued a lot of my life with this understanding that this is how it worked. So I think that's why these songs endure, because
Yeah.
they're so much a part of our how we were raised, and then also they're hopeful that we can continue to pursue what we love.
Totally. And, they tap into that sense of childhood dreaming, which we all have. But one of the other great things I love about this album is that you examine it from the other side, what it's like to dream as an adult. And one of the songs that really spoke to me was one of your originals, Is It Too Late to Dream?
Mhm.
Because it kind of looks at the flip side of dreaming, which is choosing to follow the dream. And, this is something that a lot of artists face, or people with creative ambitions is, can I pursue that? Is that a life I can pursue? Can I follow that dream? And I'm wondering if that came from a personal experience. If you ever had this, wow, can I really do this? And should I choose that lifestyle kind of moment?
Yeah, it did. I never actually asked that question at any point in my young life.
Right.
Um, Maybe you could still consider me young, and that would be wonderful. But as a child and as a young adult, when I went to pursue music and a career as a recording artist, I knew that I would be successful. And I never actually started to feel insecure until the stakes grew and grew, and I signed a deal with a major label,
Mhm.
and I had a big management company behind me, and I had a lot of different deals in the works, and I was getting the attention from a lot of people in the industry, um, and when one gets to that level, um, there are a whole lot more people involved, and you're not within just your close, trusted group of people encouraging you in the way that you would so carefully choose in the beginning. Like, there's just a lot of people offering their opinions, and people that don't know you, saying you should do this, you should be like this, you're going to be more successful if you go in this way. And I started to get insecure for the first time, and it was in the midst of that insecurity that grew over time that I had to write Too Late to Dream.
It's also a really nice foil for another one of the tunes on the disc, which is The Age of Not Believing from Bedknobs and Broomsticks, because it's about exactly that. You go through a period where you will doubt yourself, and where you kind of dismiss all the dreams you had as a kid. But on the flip side of it, you kind of have to learn to tap into that and believe in yourself. That's an absolutely beautiful track with Bill Frisell. Um, and how'd you make that connection with Bill? Because he brings just such a beautiful touch to that tune.
Well, my co-producer Aaron Thurston and I were sitting around trying to think about how to approach that song. I often think in very abstract terms in the beginning. I hear sounds, and then I try and um, fulfill those sounds with concrete things like instruments that I know. And in this case, I kept saying that to me, this song, there was something droning about it, and it sounded like the sun rising, and we weren't really connecting, Aaron and I. I just kept saying, like, it sounds like you're standing right in front of the sun as it's coming up on the horizon, and there's all of this tension, but it's like a relief to see it coming up, and I ended up, it was like for so long that we were going back and forth, and we were like, what is this? How are we going to manifest this musically? And then I drew a picture on a piece of paper. It was really funny. And I just drew this picture of a sun on the horizon, and he went, oh, I think I know who should play this with you. And we started listening to Bill, and we weren't friends at that point, but we had mutual friends. So I asked Matt Munisteri, who plays guitar with me, to introduce me to Bill, and I wrote him a long letter explaining what it is that I was trying to do and about my album, and he wrote back and was just so dear and said, yeah, I'd love to. And it was a great experience. We really connected in the studio, and he's such a lovely guy, as everyone knows.
Yeah. And you sound great together. And I encourage people, watching after this interview, go spin this album because it's really good. And the other thing I loved about it was that you're one of the few artists that hasn't really lost sight of the album as a concept, as a holistic thing from beginning to end. And they all kind of have a theme. Like this one is, dealing with a restless night or a restless period of your life. And I love the ways you kind of toy with that, whether through dreaming or kind of through the spooky kind of something's keeping me up, phenomena that we've all been in. You're in the bed, you're restless, you hear those noises, they prevent you from going to sleep. And I understand the next piece you'd like to perform is in that vein.
Yes, this is called Someone's in the House. And I wrote this, and it's about that experience you have when you wake in the middle of the night and you don't know if the noise that you've heard is something that you've dreamt or if someone's in the house.
All been there, I'm sure.
What was that noise? The creaking of the floor. I can't remember now if I locked the door. Is someone in the house? Oh no. Perhaps I should get up and see, but I don't want to go. Did I see something move? A shadow on the wall. What was that? What was that? What was that? I think it's coming from the hall. Oh, someone's in the house. Whoa, no. Don't move, don't budge, don't breathe, and maybe they will go.
All right. Looks like we faded out a little bit there, but I love that tune, Kat. Can you hear me? Everything all good?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I love your voice. I love your articulation, your delivery. And I'm curious as to the music that kind of helped shape you in terms of vocal influences. And what I'd be really curious to hear is I talk to a lot of vocalists who say there were instrumentalists who influenced the way they sing, the way they phrase. So I'm wondering if you could speak to that as well.
Yeah, instrumentalist for sure. I remember the first time I heard Johnny Hodges playing with Ella Fitzgerald, and it was the first time that I thought to myself in my young life. I was in high school. Who is that?
Wow.
Because
You
prior to
had to
that, I'd
go.
always listened to Vocalist, but
Right.
who is that? I felt that way about Ben Webster too. Um, and of course Louis Armstrong, but and perhaps in retrospect, he sounded like a voice, and of course he was singing as well, but his horn sounded like a voice to me that I would take it for granted as such.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a cerebral thing to think like, oh, he's playing an instrument. It just felt like his voice and his trumpet were one and the same. But when I started singing with jazz ensembles, I did model myself after an instrument. I mean, I started phrasing and making sounds liberally as though I were an instrument. But my original influences were actually a lot of male singers in old movies. Fred Astaire, Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, Gene Kelly, Danny Kaye, Bob Hope. They were all wonderful singers and interpreters of song. And then my mom was listening to Ella Fitzgerald and Keely Smith, Dinah Washington, and we listened to a lot of Doris Day, Debbie Reynolds.
Well-rounded musical diet, it sure sounds like. And yeah, that whole canon of film music, so much of it would go on to become enshrined in the Great American Songbook. It was, I don't know, it was just so singular. They don't write songs like that anymore. And at the same time, you make a conscious effort to kind of tap into, even in your original compositions, tap into that style, tap into that aesthetic, while at the same time updating it. I'm thinking we'll take a step back from the Dreamers Do album, and I'm thinking of Old Fashioned Gal. The title track could have been a page from the Great American Songbook, but you've got references to email in there and cell phones, and you're putting your own modern lens on it. In a lot of ways, as much as you and I love the Great American Songbook, looking at it from today's perspective, do you see some blind spots and just some problematic issues with it? Or
you mean regarding the subject matter of this?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But the conversations were different back then, and people were more closed-minded. People didn't understand. They thought that their differences were matter of fact. They didn't see one another in race and class as all the same. Though, lately, since we've been in the period of COVID-19, I find a lot of the songs during the Great Depression quite relevant, particularly the ones about the economy and people losing everything, and we've lost everything, but look what we have. We have each other. That kind of sentiment, I think, it rings more true, perhaps, to all of us now.
Totally. Those themes are universal, and, occasionally, yes, they didn't get it right and weren't totally politically correct, but those songs are enduring because they speak to a human experience. And one of the things I think is so extraordinary about your music is you are able to capture that spirit and, again, that style, and just totally apply it to the modern era. It's awesome. So again, after you're done with Dreamers Do, go check out Old Fashioned Gal. Go check out The Bigger Picture. I'm just plugging everything. Kat, I understand you've got another song you'd like to play. I would love that.
Yeah, this one is from the movie Peter Pan. And Sammy Fain wrote the music. And I'm trying to remember who wrote the lyrics. I want to say it was Bob Hilliard. I'm not certain, though. It's a great one. Not many people remember the music from Peter Pan.
It is beautiful stuff, though. And the Mary Martin Peter Pan, also great music.
I went to the same summer camp that Mary Martin did.
Did you really?
And I always kind of admired her from afar because of it. And I'll tell you what, I would never sneeze at an opportunity to play Peter Pan on the stage. I think I'm built for that.
You totally. Let's start the campaign right now, ladies and gentlemen watching. Kat Edmondson for Peter Pan. One of those live action deals.
Yeah,
Um,
I've got Aaron here in the studio queuing up Second Star.
cannot wait. Album is out right now, everyone. Go stream it. After this interview, of course.
The second star to the right shines in the night for you. To tell you that the dreams you plan really can come true. The second star to the right shines in the night, so rare. And if it's Neverland you need, its light will lead you there. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, so we'll know where you are. Gleaming in the skies above, lead us to the land we dream of. And when our journey is through, each time we say good night, thank the little star that shines the second from the right.
Just beautiful. Kat, I really cannot say enough how much I enjoyed this album. And it was a rare treat for me. You know, I found myself listening to the album, listening to your interpretations of the tunes, and then going back to the originals. And, you know, for example, with a tune like The Age of Not Believing, I said, wow, was the original this heart tugging? I mean, it really got to me. And I went back and watched it. It was, yes, but Kat, you took it to a whole new level. And so that's really a testament to your artistry here on this album. Thank you so much for sharing it with us now. And again, I encourage everyone to go out and buy it. You know, now's the time to buy it. It was one of our, there it is on vinyl.
Yeah,
Looks
double
great.
record.
Double record.
Oh,
Looks
and I remembered that Sammy Kahn wrote the lyrics to
Sammy
Second
Kahn,
Star. You can't
the
forget that.
great Sammy Kahn. That's right. Yeah. It was one of our 10 albums you need to know for February 2020, back when it was released. And it's just a really great one. Buy the vinyl, put it on, spend a night, maybe with an old fashioned, spinning it and just being taken off to another place. I want to thank you again, Kat, for coming on. And I want to ask, everyone's going to be holed up this weekend in their own walls. What's a good Disney movie to watch?
Oh, well, one of my favorites is 101 Dalmatians. I also like the Aristocats. But also, if you're holed up this weekend and you're home and you want to watch something, watch me. I'm on Sunday nights, the Kat Edmondson show, 7 p.m. Eastern at kat.live.
That's what I was going to ask. The best place for people to follow along, all things Kat Edmondson, your Facebook page, your Instagram page, where should they be checking out?
All of them. I'm on all of them. But kat.live actually will take you to all of them as well.
Kat.live. Perfect. I'll be there. Kat, thank you so much. As you can see, fans on Facebook, saying hi. They love the stuff, as did we. This was a real treat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Take care.
Okay, you too.
All right. Thank you very much to Kat Edmondson. Again, her new album, Dreamers Do, is out right now. Go stream it, go buy it, and just go follow along all things Kat. As you heard, she's an incredible vocalist. We're going to get to our next guest, the saxophonist Bobby Watson, in a minute here. I just want to take a second to thank some sponsors real quickly. The first is Mac Avenue Records. They've been putting us on the road to great music for more than 20 years now. If you want to start spinning some Mac Avenue stuff right now, may I recommend a new album by Jimmy Green, While Looking Up. Jimmy is a great tenor saxophonist, and this is just a beautiful, collection of original compositions and covers. Or maybe if you're into it, I know I certainly am, the new Tower Power record. It's called Step Up. Again, it's out right now. Go stream it. Super funky stuff. If you want to learn more, visit macavenue.com. Thanks also to Smoke Sessions Records, the label home of our next guest, Bobby Watson. Their newest album is The Intangible In Between from Orrin Evans and the Captain Black Big Band. Orrin Evans is a pianist. He's also the newest member of the Bad Plus, and this is his signature big band. His writing for big band is totally different. He's got a great pen when it comes to large ensemble. This is a really nice record. To learn more, visit smokesessionsrecords.com. Also, quick programming note. I mentioned our 10 albums you need to know. We will be talking with the ever charming online editor for Jazzes, Matt McCucci, on Monday when we pick up the happy hour again about the 10 albums you need to know for May. And believe me, there are some really good ones in there. So be sure to tune in for that. All right. Waiting in the wings is our next very special guest, Mr. Bobby Watson. Bobby, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hey, man, I can hear you. I can see you. You look great.
Thank you. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. All things are relative these days, but yeah, hanging in there. We're all a little stir crazy, but we made it to Friday, and talking with you is an absolute treat. So how about yourself?
I'm good, man. Just one day at a time. Doing a lot
That's exactly right.
Writing, reading.
That's exactly right, man. I got a sneak peek of the new album, Keepin It Real. So I've been spinning that a lot lately. It's a reconvening of Horizons, which was like the band in the late 80s, early 90s that was keeping that straight ahead bop flame alive. From what I understood, you went on a reunion tour with Horizons, and those cats, Essie, Edward Simon, Victor Lewis. And it was then, while you were touring with the original group, that you decided to reconvene with new members. Is that the case?
That is. Yes, it is, Brian.
So what sparked that decision?
Well, we were playing stuff from our songbook, which is always a lot of fun, and we enjoyed each other's company, getting back together because we are family. And but as I was getting toward the last performance, I realized that the energy had changed. Not that it was bad, it had just changed because we had all kind of moved on. And I realized that in everybody's head, they all had other thoughts, priorities, projects, music they were working on that they had grown into, members that got married, have children, their own careers had developed into their own solo careers, and obviously they still love being a part of Horizon and us playing together, I just felt that I needed an opportunity because it's so hard to get them guys together. Number one, I mean, that was planned like over a year in advance, and I needed something more fluid. Uh, and Not that we've disbanded, but I've sort of added uh,
Right.
the New Horizons now that we can assemble quicker, get together, play more gigs together, not interrupt their flow.
And we should shout some of these cats out. So who are the members of New Horizons?
I use two trumpet players on the
I love
record.
that.
One is Gifton Jellum, who's making some noise now on the scene. He's still attending Juilliard. I think he has one more year, and
Cool.
he had a he had a big breakout night at the Roy Hargrove tribute. But Curtis Lundy had pulled my coat to him and some other
Cool.
cats. But Curtis is a big talent scout, and also Josh Evans, who I ran into while we were doing the Horizon reunion gig at Dizzy's. He came up to me backstage and he said he wants to play with us, and he started playing some of our music on his trumpet. And so at the last minute, I put him on there too.
Right
That's why
on, man.
too.
Yeah.
I'm a little greedy.
When it comes for me, the more trumpets, the merrier, man. I'm a
Oh,
trumpet
yeah.
player, so
Bugler's Holiday.
bring it on. Yeah, Bugler's Holiday. That's right.
Yeah. And Victor Gould,
Yeah.
piano. Victor Jones, we go way back. Victor Jones on drums, who is someone that whose name doesn't come up nearly enough. He's a master
True.
of the drums and has played with Stan Getz and Lou Donaldson and all kinds of folks. And of course, Curtis Lundy, my bud,
You go way back.
for 40 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
back to Miami. We met
Yeah.
in college.
That's right. It's no, it was an exciting move, man, and it kind of took a page from Art Blakey's playbook as well. He was always keeping the band fresh, you know. And I imagine, you know, when you were calling up some of these guys and saying, "Hey, I want you to be in Horizons," mine must have been blown. Do you remember the moment when Blakey called you? And when can you take us back to that phone call, man?
Well, it wasn't even a phone call. It was Brian. It was I was sitting in up at Storyville,
Okay.
Art's birthday, and Curtis Fuller had taken me under his wing, and a gentleman named Joe Kingston, excuse me, and they brought Art down to the club to hear me. And long story short, we're playing. I'm down there with Jimmy Forrest and Chris Woods and Earl May and Butch Miles, cats from the Basie band. They used to play there when they were off the band. And I was up sitting in with them, and Joe brought Art down. Next thing you know, he's up on the bandstand, switched places with Butch, and he's playing, and he's back there, blow, blow. And afterwards, he pulled me off the stage and took me in the back and asked me who I was with. And I said, "I'm not with anybody. I'd like to be with the Jazz Messengers." And it took me about a half a second to think about it. But, you know, he was, and, you know, when I got to New York and I started sitting in and playing around, sitting in a lot in a courteous way, I would have, people would hear me and they would ask me, "Who are you with?" So that was like my cue. They wouldn't say, "Hey man, you really sound good. I really dig what you're doing." The thing was they would always ask, "Who you with?" Because back in the late 70s and prior, cats would come to New York with different big bands and different ensembles, and they would hit the city and sit in around town. So they thought I was one of those kind of guys, and that was my kind of a cue that I was in the ballpark. So
Nice,
I'd
man.
ask me, "Who you with?" And I said, "Okay."
Well, now some of the young cats are with Bobby, man. You ask them who they're with. I'm with Bobby Watson. Very cool. Come full circle. Well, hey man, I want to ask you about what it was like to play with Art Blakey, being on the bandstand with those drums in a minute. But careful observers will notice that you got a neck strap around your neck, man. That means your axe has to be nearby. Any chance you could do some playing?
Yeah, I could think of something. Yeah, you want me?
All right, man. Yeah, always a treat. Whenever you're ready, man.
Oh, okay, I don't know. I'll figure something out here. I'm gonna have to stay seated, but I hope you can hear me. Let me see. I'll just play some blues.
All right, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. The old running joke around here is that our producer Jeff has to mute me and take me off air. Otherwise, it'd just be too much. Yeah, man. Everything. I got the stank face going on. I mean, that was great, man. That sounded great, Bobby. And that sounded great alone, in a room. Tell me about what it was like taking a ride with Art Blakey underneath you. What did he bring to your plan?
Oh, I would say a consistency and a dedication. It taught me how to build solos and how to shape solos, how to read the audience, and also the reverence for the bandstand, and that being a sacred spot. That when we went on the bandstand, we didn't bring any of our daily trials and tribulations. We were there for one thing, and that was to serve the music. And so it made us more consistently dedicated. Because when Art got on the bandstand, you were either with him or you got left behind. Because when he got on the bandstand, he didn't care about none of us. He went into another world. He went into a trance.
Yeah.
So we cherish the bandstand. He taught us that it's our altar and it's our sanctuary. And you have to play like tomorrow's not promised. And if you can come off the bandstand and give yourself an A for effort, the spirits will give you another chance to continue.
That's beautiful, man. And let me just remind everybody watching, you see people, chiming in from all over on Facebook and YouTube saying hello. I think including one of, somebody you advised at the University of Miami with Curtis Lundy. So it's great to see people saying hello. If you have a question for Bobby, feel free to ask. We'll get to it on air. I'm curious if you found yourself kind of passing down those lessons that you learned from Art Blakey that maybe didn't even have to do with music, those how to conduct yourself off the bandstand lessons, to the new guys in New Horizons.
Well, we've, Curtis and myself and Victor Jones, we've been together in some form or fashion for years. I've known Victor Jones for decades. And so he came up under some great folks as well. So he has that tradition and philosophy in him, as well as Curtis with Betty Carter and Johnny Griffin and so many. So the three of us sort of have this foundation, sort of a quorum that we project, and Victor Gould and to the two trumpeters when they're there. Of course, I won't take two trumpeters on the gig, but Victor is I call him, he's my musical director. I got that part from Art. You always want to delegate authority. He was a very good delegator.
Yeah, man.
We had a straw boss. He used to make sure everybody was downstairs on time, because some guys would oversleep, and some guys were heavy sleepers or what have you.
Right.
I was the musical director. Art was the
kind of lieutenant. Art was a general. Yeah.
We were all invested. So I try to give everybody some invested interest in the ensemble.
Yeah, man. Very cool. Bobby, as I mentioned, I've been listening to the new album a lot. You've got Charlie Parker tune on there, Mohawk, which is, a burner, the way Charlie Parker originally did it. You kind of slowed it down. You let it simmer. You added some soul. You added some funk. That was a very cool choice, man. Does it ever feel weird to take a Charlie? Because I feel like we enshrine these Parker tunes, man, and people are afraid to really kind of tweak them, recontextualize them. Did it feel kind of taboo to do it?
Not really. I've been playing Parker for so long.
Yeah, man.
And, I got a chance to play with Walter Davis and have him mentor me, and other people that were actually there when the bomb went off, we'd like to say. And Walter used to say, if Charlie Parker came back and he heard us playing stuff the way he did it, or Monk or Duke, and they would say, yeah, baby, I hear you. I hear you, but I did that 70 years ago, or now.
That's a good point.
You don't have anything of your own.
Yeah.
So he said, I always try to play like one of them gentlemen might walk into the club. And so I figured that they would be very appreciative that, man, I never thought of that, the way you did my song. Because I know I am. I'm at that point in my life where people are taking my songs and reimagining them.
Yeah.
It's very refreshing, and it's a great compliment and a humbling experience when someone takes your material and do it a way that you would have never thought of.
Yeah, man. Any chance you can play that head the way you do it, Mohawk, from the new album?
It's really slow. I mean,
well, I guess we could do a compare contrast. You play the original and then do it how you take it on the album.
Okay, so the original. Oh, come on, baby.
Yeah, man.
Kind of slowed it down,
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Feel to it.
Oh, I love it. It's a great vibe. A great. And how about that? Bobby Watson, the one-man band, playing the saxophone and the piano. Yeah, and you took a similar approach to Bird at 100, which again is out right now. A celebration of Charlie Parker in 2020, his centennial year. It was you. Who else was on that record? It was you, Gary Bartz, and that's right.
Yeah, it was his date. He invited us all to be a part of it. He picked everybody: Dave Kukowski, Carl Allen, and Toshiko Nakamura, Mr. Nakamura on bass.
That's right, man. Now, it was a beautiful record. That's out on Smoke Sessions right now.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. I want to ask you, Bobby, when you listen to Charlie Parker now, what do you hear differently now than you did when you were a young student studying this music, learning this language? Do you hear him differently?
I do, actually. You know, at first it's the virtuosity, of course, you know, the amazing skills and then his sound. And then now, you know, the spontaneity. And I hear the constant melody in his phrasing, no matter at what tempo he's at. He's always singing and just composing right there on the spot. You know, one of my favorites is, of course, Just Friends. It's like my ringtone. If somebody was to call me, they would hear the intro to that. And
Nice,
this mambo thing he did with Machito. It's just you hear his heart, and he's just always singing. You know,
totally.
Amazing. The little melodies inside of what he's playing. It's not about the licks or the patterns, or he plays himself, so you're going to hear things that are come up all the time, but those are his. You know?
Absolutely.
We basically have one song we're trying to play our whole life, I feel.
I read this great quote by you. You know, Charlie Parker had his song. John Coltrane had his song. Yeah. You on the new album have a song called My Song.
Yeah.
And this is you, man. This is you. And it's to your credit. You know, you have just amazing style that you've been cultivating, you know, for a while now, and it has persisted through. I mean, you were doing the straight ahead thing through the 80s, you know, when fusion was, you know, taken, and you just held it down, Bobby. And the new record is kind of like seeing you pass it on to a new generation, you know, which is awesome, man, which is awesome. Hey, you know, you are also, we should mention, a major figure in jazz education. We are talking to you from Kansas City, Kansas, right? I want to get this right. Kansas City, Kansas, where you are a professor where?
At the University, UMKC, University of Missouri in Kansas City, UMKC Conservatory of Music.
Yeah, man. And this was after a while, you know, you were on the East Coast. How does it feel to be back hometown, man?
It's been beautiful. This is my 20th year, and actually my final year. Commencement is tomorrow, and I'm giving the commencement speech for the conservatory graduates virtually now. But it's been a great ride, 20 years, taking the band overseas to Japan and going to different collegiate events, and to the Gin Convention a couple times, and doing the record, the Gates Barbecue Suite with the band several years back, and seeing all the great graduates going out over the world and out throughout Kansas City that come here from different places and end up staying here. So, and also I'm an endowed professor. That was an endowed professorship, which is special, and also the director of jazz studies. So for the last 20 years, I've had the opportunity to handpick my faculty and people that work with me as administrators. Dan Thomas, for instance, Canadian alto sax player. He's been my right-hand man for years.
Right on, man.
And now Mitch Butler, Dr. Mitch Butler is taking the torch and moving it forward for the time that he's going to be there.
Very nice, man. Great jazz lineage. You know, Charlie Parker was a Kansas City guy, although was it Missouri?
He was born in Kansas, believe it or not.
Okay. Born in Kansas.
Born in Kansas. His parents moved him over to Missouri.
Oh, well, nobody's perfect. No, I'm just kidding. He might be.
Right. Yeah, right. Brother, listen. That's a topic for another day.
That's exactly right. We have a question here from Scott.
I'm going to say, I live in Kansas.
There you go. You're a Kansas guy.
Really good. That's where I'm at.
We have a question here from Scott watching on Facebook. He wants to know, what does Bobby think Art's attitude would be during this pandemic, a troubled time like this? What would he say about coping? You know, a lot of musicians are struggling right now. You know, gigs have dried up, festivals have dried up. What would Art say, man, to get his band through it?
I think he would say something like, don't worry, fellas, the angels are with us. And he would say, we got to just keep the faith and keep the horn, stay on your instruments, fellas.
That's right.
Prepare for war in times of peace. He would keep us fired up, you know, and I know that Art would be wearing a mask. Because one of the lessons they taught me way back then was to always wash your hands because you're dealing with the public.
That's right.
Even back then, he would always, they stressed washing your hands quite a bit.
Art was ahead of the curve. Who knew?
Yeah. I mean, he would be right on it. He'd be on the news.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked politics. We talked world events. You know, we didn't talk music too much. He led by example. So he was very worldly and very knowledgeable, as all of those cats were.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
he was a leader for a reason, you know, not just a musical leader, but you know, just like a real leader in the truest sense. And Bobby, man, with everything you got going on with New Horizons, with your teaching posts, you absolutely are too, man. It's great to be chatting with you. And I've loved the new album. It's out June 26th. Again, we should mention June 26th on Smoke Sessions Record. Yeah. But Bird at 100 with you and Gary Bartz and Vincent Herring is out right now.
Yeah. Even with the pandemic, it's still a great time to be an alto saxophonist from Kansas City.
So true, man.
You know?
Yep. Bobby, this was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for chatting with us this evening for the Jazz's Happy Hour. I toast to you, sir. I will see you backstage, but I'm going to sign off with everybody watching at home and tell them a little bit about what's coming up next week.
All right, Brian. Thank you very much. Right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And, you know, keep the faith. We're going to come out of this stronger and wiser and better.
Amen to that, man. Mm-hmm. So long, Bobby.
Peace.
All right. Wow. I hope you really enjoyed today's episode. What a way to cap off the week. Kat Edmondson and Bobby Watson, two amazing performers playing in your living room or office or bedroom or wherever you happen to be. I certainly enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. Again, quick programming note. After the weekend, we're going to reconvene on Monday with the ever-charming online editor of Jazz's magazine, Matt McCucci. You'll get to hear his Irish brogue as he walks us through the 10 albums you need to know for May 2020, and it is a good list. Starting on Tuesday, we have Ted Poole, a great drummer with a new album coming out soon. Guitarist Jonathan Kreisberg coming up on Wednesday the 20th. Thursday, we're going to have the journalist Mark Stryker from Detroit walk us through the Detroit jazz scene, the history of it, the past, present, and future of it. And he's going to be joined by drummer Casa Overall, who's going to be sharing some new music with us. That's going to be really cool too. And then Friday, we're going to wrap things up with Linda Pearl. She is a jazz vocalist, phenomenal jazz vocalist, but you may know her as Fonzie's girlfriend from Happy Days, or Pam's mom, Steve Carell's girlfriend from The Office. Actor, singer, happy hour guest. She's a triple threat. Anyway, thank you again for joining me. I am Brian Zimmerman, digital content editor of Jazz's magazine. I hope you have a great weekend. We will see you next week on the Jazz's Happy Hour. So long.